Good morning and welcome to some Civil War poetry. My name is Vincent Hannum. I am a sleepyhead, and this is my office in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, just want to say hello. Welcome to Thursday. If you are new, we are reading from Poetry of the Civil War. It's a series I've been doing for 3 weeks or so now, and we're just nearing the conclusion. Probably got another week or so left. And I am reading one Union poem and one Confederate poem each morning. Do a little comparing and contrasting, see how the war was affecting people at the time, in this case, at least poetically. I can absolutely already see a version of the show where we are reading Civil War letters, and that would really be awesome just to get like that, like a private point of view or his wife's point of view, that kind of stuff. So if you have any ideas for some of these personal documents that we might be able to read, please let me know. And while you're at it, like, share, and subscribe. I would also point you in the direction of Mischief Tales, the probable future home of this show. And they're doing some cool creative things over there. So today we are featuring two poems one is by Thomas Buchanan Reed. He's our Union poet. His poem is called Sheridans Ride. And a little about Mr. Reed. He lived from 1822 to 1872. Was born in Chester County, Pennsylvania. He ran away from home at an early age, supporting himself as a cigar maker, sign painter, and portrait artist. In 1843, his first poems were published in a Boston newspaper. His first collection of verse poems was published 4 years later. Several other volumes followed, including Summer Story, Sheridans Ride, and Other Poems, 1865, which focused chiefly on the Civil War. Having settled in Europe, Reed returned to the United States during the conflict. Reed returned to Europe at the war's end. Okay, so I think this might be our first TBR poem, TBH, and sounds like an interesting dude. Let's give his poem Sheridan's Ride a look-see, shall we? Philip Sheridan was a Union general. He was one of the top ones. I don't quite know or remember exactly what his claim to fame is. Perhaps it's this ride. We'll see. More to come. Here we go. Sheridan's Ride, October 19th, 1864. Up from the south at break of day, bringing to Winchester fresh dismay, the affrighted air with a shudder bore, like a herald in haste to the chieftain's door. The terrible grumble and rumble and roar, telling the battle was on once more, and Sheridan 20 miles away. And wider still those billows of war thundered along the horizon's bar, and louder yet into Winchester rolled the roar of that Red Sea uncontrolled, making the blood of the listener cold as he thought of the stake in that fiery fray with Sheridan 20 miles away. But there is a road from Winchester town, a good broad highway leading down, and there through the flush of the morning light, a steed as black as the steeds of night was seen to pass as with eagle flight. As if he knew the terrible need, he stretched away with his utmost speed. Hills rose and fell, but his heart was gay with Sheridan 15 miles away. Still sprang from those swift hoofs thundering south, the dust like smoke from the cannon's mouth, with a trail of a comet sweeping faster and faster, foreboding to traitors the doom of disaster. The heart of the steed and the heart of the master were beating like prisoners assaulting their walls, impatient to be where the battlefield calls. Every nerve of the charger was strained to full play, with Sheridan only 10 miles away. Under his spurting feet the road, like an arrowy alpine river, flowed, and the landscape sped away behind, like an ocean flying before the wind. and the steed, like a bark fed with furnace ire, swept on with his wild eye full of fire. But lo, he is nearing his heart's desire. He is snuffing the smoke of the roaring fray, with Sheridan only 5 miles away. The first that the general saw were the groups of stragglers and then the retreating troops. What was done, what to do, a glance told him both. Then striking his spurs with a terrible oath, he dashed down the line mid a storm of huzzas, and the wave of retreat checked its course there because the sight of the master compelled it to pause. With foam and with dust the black charger was gray. By the flash of his eye and the red nostrils' play, he seemed to the whole great army to say, I have brought you Sheridan all the way from Winchester down to save the day. Hurrah, hurrah for Sheridan! Hurrah, hurrah for horse and man! And when their statues are placed on high, under the dome of the Union sky, the American soldier's temple of fame, there with the glorious general's name, be it said, in letters both bold and bright, here is the steed that saved the day by carrying Sheridan into the fight, from Winchester, 20 miles away. A rousing, exciting, action-packed adventure poem from Thomas Buchanan Reed. I have rarely have I read something so action-packed. I'm thinking of the Charge of the Light Brigade, for instance. And my question with you is: was this poem about Sheridan, or was it about his steed? Comment below. Okay, speaking of below, in the description of this episode, there are links to the poems. Sorry you missed out on Sheridan's Ride, but you can still follow along to our Confederate poem of the day. It is called The Two Armies by friend of the pod, Henry Timrod. We have featured him several times. I think he's probably the most read Confederate poet, at least in this collection. So there's something. I guess you won something there, buddy. And Henry Timrod lived from 1829 to 1867. Was born in Charleston, South Carolina, the son of a bookbinder and minor poet. The younger Timrod's first collection of verse, Poems, was published in 1860. An impassioned supporter of the Confederacy, he twice enlisted but was discharged both times due to ill health. For a time, he worked as a war correspondent for the Charleston Mercury. In 1864, he moved to Columbia, where he edited the Daily South Carolinian. When the city was burned in February 1865, Timrod was reduced to extreme poverty, from which he never recovered. His health continued to deteriorate, and he died of tuberculosis. So, his poem, again today, is called The Two Armies. I think the last one we read by him was called Ode, O-D-E. Two armies stand enrolled beneath the banner with the starry wreath. One facing battle, blight and blast, through twice 100 fields has passed. Its deeds against a ruffian foe, stream, valley, hill, and mountain know, till every wind that sweeps the land goes glory-laden from the strand. The other, with a narrower scope, yet led by not less grand a hope, hath won, perhaps, as proud a place, and wears its fame with meeker grace. Wives march beneath its glittering sign, fond mothers swell the lovely line, and many a sweetheart hides her blush in the young patriot's generous flush. No breeze of battle ever fanned the colors of that tender band. Its office is beside the bed, where throbs some sick or wounded head. It does not court the soldier's tomb, but plies the needle and the loom, and by 1,000 peaceful deeds supplies a struggling nation's needs. Nor is that army's gentle night unfelt amid the deadly fight. It nerves the son's, the husband's hand, it points the lover's fearless brand. It thrills the languid, warms the cold, gives even new courage to the bold, and sometimes lifts the veriest clod to its own lofty trust in God. When heaven shall blow the trump of peace and bid this weary warfare cease, their several missions nobly done, the triumph grasped and freedom won. Both armies, from their toils at rest, alike may claim the victor's crest, but each shall see its dearest prize gleam softly from the other's eyes. All right, I think we're seeing some character development from Henry Timrod. A lot of his poems have been very pro-Southern, of course. He being a South Carolinian, just about South Carolina or about Charleston. But this poem seems to strike a feeling of both sides are gonna claim victory. Both sides are right. Both sides are fighting for a freedom, in a sense. So that's interesting. Henry Timrod. Okay, tomorrow is Friday, and we got 2 more poems coming at you, just like every other morning. Our Union poem for the day is going to be called Vigil Strange I Kept on the Field One Night. Vigil strange I kept on the field one night. Vigil strange I kept on the field one night. And it is by Walt Whitman. No wonder I would like that title so much. Our Confederate poem of the day is not Walt Whitman. It is by author unknown. So, hey, it could have been Walt Whitman. Think about that. Author unknown. He's writing a poem called Cleburne. So, got some good stuff coming up tomorrow. Check it out. Wake up with me early or catch this a little bit later on in the afternoon. Either way, I thank you and have a great day. Take care.